heated rivalries to the biggest fallouts in political history. Here are 10 tech billionaires who hate each other, each feud becoming more strange until the very end. Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Elon had his fists up. He was ready to fight.
I'll fight Zuckerberg any place, anytime,
In February of 2020, Elon tweeted hashtag delete Facebook and blamed the January 6th riots on Facebook misinformation. Zuck, not a word. And after he bought Twitter, Elon was making fun of Threads, and finally, for some ungodly reason, he decided to challenge Zuckerberg to a cage match. Zuck, who had been in his MAGA rebrand arc, has been fighting for months. Mark trained with Muhammad Ali's trainer, Mark Pacquiao. Zuck was ready, and finally, he agreed to fight Elon. The odds were set. Mark minus 500, Elon plus 300, a huge underdog, but months of back and forth later, Elon bailed.
Zuck versus Elon fire.
No, I mean, he's checking out.
I don't think he's checking it out.
Yeah. Buck.
Zuck threaded, I think we can all agree Elon isn't serious and it's time to move on. I offered a real date. Dana White offered to make this a legit competition for charity. Elon won't confirm a date, then says he needs surgery, and now asks to do a practice round in my backyard. If Elon ever gets serious about a real date and an official event, he knows how to reach me. Otherwise, time to move on. I'm going to focus on competing with people who take the sport seriously. But Mark's cage match is nothing compared to his fight with Tim Apple. Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg. I think everyone has to ask, how do companies make their money? Follow the money, and if they're making money mainly by collecting gobs and gobs of data, I think you have a right to be worried, and you should really understand what's happening to that data. That's a quote from Tim Cook. Mark took that personally and switched to an Android phone. He ordered his entire management team to switch. Why? Well, watch this. Apple exposing all the ways Facebook tracks you with its iOS app is really quite something. Mark Zuckerberg hates Tim Cook because Tim exposed all the that Meta tracks you with. Mark, Steve Jobs invented the
iPhone, and now they're just kind of sitting on it 20 years later.
What's funny is Mark has either bought or copied all of his successful products. Instagram, bought. Stories, copied from Snapchat. WhatsApp, bought. Threads, come on, Threads, this one is obvious. VR, he bought Oculus. But Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg have united around one thing, and that is their love for the Trump administration. Bill Gates and Larry Ellison. Everything changed in the late 1900s when the internet came online. Bill was in back and forths with the US government over antitrust laws. Remember when we used to actually care about those? And Larry Ellison was the CEO of Oracle. He's been CEO for what feels like the dawn of time now. That motherfucker, he's 81 years old. He's on his 5th wife. I think this one will be his last. Trust, bro. But in the turn of the millennia, Bill Gates and Larry Ellison were bitter rivals. Bill was competitive, relentless, and hyper-analytical. He would do literally anything to succeed. Larry was also one of Steve Jobs' best friends.
Yeah, my best friend for 25 years.
And as you will hear later on in this video, Jobs and Gates didn't exactly get along. But Bill and Larry were in an all-out fight to the death. They both wanted this enterprise software market. And the enterprise software market was where all the money was going at the time. These are platforms for businesses, large, huge, massive organizations. Long story short, they were fighting for the tune of billions. Ellison once joked, Microsoft's biggest contribution to software is making people hate computers. But Bill didn't take that lightly. Bill fired right back, saying that cloud technology was useless. Something that's, I don't know if that's turned out to be true today.
What do you think Google runs on?
I'll ask you
another. What, do they run on water vapor? Cloud.
And he also believed that everyone would own their own personal computer, which is very accurate. I've got a computer. I'm on it right now. Ellison assaulted back, saying Bill's idea of a wild night is a game of bridge, and that he lived like a monk. And for context here, Larry said this because Bill wasn't wasting his billions on super yachts like Larry was. But the peak of this feud flew into public eye during Microsoft's antitrust trials. Larry decided to hire private investigators to dig up dirt on Microsoft's lobbying efforts. While this was happening, Larry went dumpster diving. His private investigators went digging through Microsoft's trash for evidence. And later on in an interview, Larry said, "We were trying to expose a conspiracy. I feel good about what we did."
But I mean, you think they're evil? Absolutely.
Gates was obviously furious. He felt violated. He stayed quiet. Larry and Bill weren't in a business rivalry. It was an all-out personal war. But Bill blames the antitrust lawsuit on the reason he had to step down as CEO of Microsoft. But years later, after he stepped down, Larry and Bill became best friends yet again. These days, Bill is described as the happiest guy on the planet. A very long way from his tantrum-throwing CEO days, but Bill's fight with Larry is nothing compared to his fight with Melinda, his ex-wife. Bill and Melinda Gates. Bill fell in love with Melinda in 1987. Melinda was a product manager, warm, friendly, and authentic. Bill was already one of the world's most powerful CEOs, and it is very well known that a massive power imbalance is how all good relationships start. In 1994, Bill and Melinda finally got married, and Bill rented out all of the available hotel rooms on the Hawaiian island of Lanai to prevent media from staying there. He took this even further and rented all of the helicopters on Maui to keep photographers from flying over the wedding. But it doesn't stop here. It gets even crazier. That island is Epstein's island. The island of Lanai is now owned by none other than Larry Ellison. And for years, things between Bill and Melinda were good. They started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which managed over $50 billion of assets, tax-free, wink, wink. They raised 3 children, and they were known for their weird, quirky sense of partnership. But issues started to occur when a little Bill became a little too close to that man himself, Jeffrey Epstein.
He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards.
Melinda became increasingly uncomfortable. Melinda wanted more independence, and she urged Bill to cut off contact with Epstein after his conviction.
I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein.
But, of course, Bill ignored her. Bill had one affair that we know of, and by 2021, Melinda had already been meeting with lawyers for several years. She wanted out. She was done pretending things were fine. She was deeply unhappy. And the final straw, Bill's meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. He met with Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction for sex crimes. Oh, and it comes out. In 2006, Bill attended a presentation by a female Microsoft employee. Mr. Gates, who was at the time the company's chairman, left the meeting and immediately emailed the woman to ask her out. He wrote, "If this makes you uncomfortable, pretend it never happened." Oh, and again, a year or two later, Bill was on a trip to New York on behalf of the Gates Foundation that he started with his wife. He was traveling with a woman who had worked for the foundation for years. Standing at her cocktail party, Mr. Gates lowered his voice and said, "I want to see you. Will you have dinner with me?" These are the people that have really partners at the office for everyone. Bill once said in an interview that marriage was like a business partnership. But Melinda has said years later, that's exactly the problem. I was his partner in business, but not always his partner in love.
There just came a point in time where there was enough there that I realized it just wasn't healthy, and I couldn't trust what we had.
Bill says divorcing Melinda was the biggest regret of his entire life. But these next two hate each other more than Bill and Melinda ever could. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. Jeffrey Epstein is dead. But who am I kidding? Trump doesn't hate Epstein. He loves Epstein. Release the files. Who Donald really hates is Michael Bloomberg. Donald Trump and Michael Bloomberg. Bloomberg started it. At the 2016 Democratic National Convention, Bloomberg gave a heartfelt speech, absolutely blasting Trump. He said, "I'm a New Yorker.
And I know a con when I see one."
Trump went through his flurry of weapons. Money, no. Fox News, no. There it is. Twitter. He fired right back, calling Bloomberg little and a total lightweight. Bloomberg is 5'7", by the way. And that sounds a lot like Trump. Michael Bloomberg thought Trump was a complete fraud, a man who inherited all of his wealth, lost it all, only to build it back on some lucky branding stunt. And Trump thinks that Bloomberg is a phony elite who bought all of his influences and looks down on real businessmen. Bloomberg stopped with his words and started with his actions. He funded anti-Trump campaigns in 2016, poured hundreds of millions of dollars into the Democratic races, but this was nothing compared to what Bloomberg did in 2020. In 2020, Michael Bloomberg hated Trump so much he finally said,
running for president to defeat Donald Trump and to unite and rebuild America.
He believed he was the only delusional billionaire who could beat Trump. Trump roasted him endlessly on social media, coining the term Mini Mike and saying that he was embarrassed in quitting.
Mini Mike. I know him well. Get me off! Get me off of these steps!
Only for, unfortunately, Trump to have the last laugh. Nice try, Bloomy. Bloomberg dropped out, but not before spending $1 billion of his own money. That was more than anyone in political history at the time, just to stop Trump. Well, just to fail to stop Trump. Elon Musk and Sam Altman. The world was never the same after Elon and Sam met for the first time. They met in the early 2010s when Altman was the president of the startup incubator Y Combinator, a world-renowned tech incubator. Musk was building out both SpaceX and Tesla, and they bonded over their shared vision that AI was going to destroy all of humanity. Instead of saving the world, they decided to build its destruction. In fact, Elon and Sam used to work together. They co-founded OpenAI. They were close. They were mission aligned and they were together. OpenAI was founded as a non-profit. They wanted to develop AI in a responsible and reasonable manner for all of humanity. But Musk decided to leave the board in 2018. He tried to merge OpenAI into Tesla and he failed completely. Musk has been a real critic of OpenAI abandoning its roots.
It does seem weird that something can be a non-profit open source and somehow transform itself into a for-profit closed source.
And I can't blame him. I mean, Sam Altman sold 49% of OpenAI to the tech god that is Microsoft. After OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public in 2022, Musk founded xAI in March of 2023 and promoted it as the anti-woke alternative. But last year, Musk sued Sam for turning OpenAI into a for-profit entity. Altman countersued back, claiming Musk had worked non-stop to torpedo the company.
I am the reason OpenAI exists.
But the rivalry between OpenAI and xAI is now just one front in the larger war between Sam and Musk. What started out as tension quickly escalated into an all-out battle. Musk began mocking ChatGPT as insufferable and says the woke mind virus is fundamentally anti-human and it has been deeply ingrained to the models within ChatGPT. Sam Altman was then ousted as CEO, only to be brought back moments later. Musk escalated. He made a bid of $97.4 billion to buy back OpenAI, even though they weren't for sale. Altman didn't take this seriously, saying that his bid was a sham bid only designed to hurt the company.
The company is not for sale, neither is the mission. We're happy to buy Twitter if you can talk about that.
Sam said in an interview, Elon's whole life is from a position of insecurity. I feel for the guy. I do. I actually do. I don't
think he's like a happy person. I do feel for him.
If Peter Thiel wasn't in the shadows, holding this techno-feudalist house of cards together, these broligarchs would all be ripping each other's throats out trying to be king. It's Drake and Kendrick, but they're both Drake. They hate each other, and they certainly don't work together anymore. But do you know who used to work together? Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. In 1984, Steve and Bill were working together on one of the very first concepts of the Mac. They were friends. But not even a year or two later, their egos could not stand to be even in the same room with one another. Steve Jobs accused Bill Gates of stealing the Macintosh interface for his Windows machine. Gates shot back saying, "Well, Steve, I think there's more than one way of looking at it. I think it's more like we both had this rich neighbor named Xerox, and I broke into the house to steal the TV, but I found out you had already stolen it." For years, they traded jabs. Jobs mocked Microsoft's lack of taste.
The only problem with Microsoft is they just have no taste.
I don't mean that in a small way, I mean in a big way.
Gates mocked Apple's small market share. Jobs said Gates was smart, but had no imagination. Gates said Jobs was a mix of weird, ingenious.
Thoughts are on the job Steve Jobs has done as the CEO of Apple.
But near the end of Jobs' life, they reconciled. Gates even appeared at one of Apple's events via satellite.
We've kept our marriage secret for over a decade now.
And when Jobs passed, Gates said, "I will miss Steve. We competed intensely, but we were both lucky to have worked in an industry that changed the world."
Very sad not to have his talents, and think about the great opportunities we had to have a big impact.
Tim Cook and Steve Jobs. Tim was Steve's right-hand man, but he was never the visionary. Jobs was a perfectionist. He was emotional, impulsive, and obsessive. Tim was disciplined and ruthlessly efficient. When Jobs was dying of cancer, he told Tim not to ask what I would do, just
do what's right, he said.
Cook took over in 2011. He transformed Apple from a design cult into a cash empire. Services, logistics, manufacturing, all perfectly engineered. But to the old guard, this is where Apple lost its soul. Jobs said before his death, "Tim's not the product guy." Jobs' final moments couldn't be more correct. Apple hasn't come anywhere close to making a product as revolutionary as the iPhone was. Can't even get AI right, but it has made more money than any company in history. Cook was the executor, and his time as CEO is coming to a close. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Jeff and Elon aren't fighting on Earth, no. They are fighting in space. Their rivalry began in 2004. Bezos invited Musk to lunch to discuss space. Elon said Blue Origin's rocket was too complicated and wouldn't work. Bezos obviously didn't take that well. Years later, SpaceX Falcon 9 landed successfully, while Blue Origin's New Shepard only went suborbital. Elon mocked Jeff endlessly, tweeting that Blue Origin was a copycat company and called it Blue Balls. "We're building the infrastructure for the next generation," Bezos said, while Elon was focused on Mars. But when SpaceX won the $2.9 billion NASA contract to build the lunar lander in 2021, Jeff lost his fuck. Blue Origin sued NASA, delaying the mission for months. Musk tweeted, "Can't get it up to orbit." After another Blue Origin failed attempt, Bezos responded with a sleek PR campaign about saving humanity through sustainable space systems.
We have to go to space to save Earth. That's why this work is so important, and we don't have forever to do it.
Because if Jeff Bezos is known for anything, it's saving humanity and building sustainable systems. Translation, Jeff Bezos was pissed off. Their feud isn't about rockets, it's about who gets to play God. Bezos wants to build space colonies, Musk wants to colonize Mars. Unbelievable to see billionaires out in the open, talking shit, spreading rumors, and engaging in schoolyard bullying. But here we are. Welcome to the new terrordom of billionaire warlords. The only ego combination greater than Jeff and Elon is Trump and Elon. This one's an all-timer. This is the most iconic fight between two billionaires that has ever occurred in human history. Elon and Trump started off as unlikely buddies in the White House. Trump even called Musk a genius during his first term.
I always say we have to be protective of our geniuses because we don't have too many, but that one is a good one. Now, I watched his rocket come.
Musk served on his advisory council for manufacturing in space, but Elon has pulled multiple 180s here, right? I mean, he used to be a Democrat. He was all about sustainability and
there is a clear path to a fully sustainable Earth with abundance.
Building out EVs, right? And then turned to the dark side and went Republican, was a devout Trump supporter for like 3 months. But before the end of 2025, their bromance exploded into a full-on public meltdown. It kicked off when Musk pulled his support for Trump after he pushed policies that clashed with Tesla's green energy push. Trump rolled back all of the EV subsidies that somehow still existed. I mean, subsidies are supposed to be for like companies just getting off the ground, right? I mean, let me check my notes here. Tesla is $1 trillion company. So Trump blasted Musk back on Truth Social, calling him an an overrated electric car salesman and threatened very serious consequences if Musk kept funding Democrats. Musk fired right back on X, his new social media platform that he owns. Why do all of these billionaires have their own social media company? Trump's got Truth Social and Elon bought X now. Musk fired back on X, calling Trump a dinosaur stuck in the oil age, and launched his own America Party to challenge the GOP. The feud escalated with Trump accusing Musk of being anti-American for some reason, and Musk came back to troll Trump's age and policies and saying it's time for fresh blood.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
He happily admitted that tariffs will lead to a recession. He called for Trump's impeachment, which would be it would be his third impeachment if he was somehow impeached again. He rebuked the big, beautiful bill.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
Admitted that Trump and Epstein were best friends. And most importantly, Elon said that Democrats would have won the presidential election had it not been for Musk's support for Trump. What began as mutual admiration, Musk donating millions to Trump's campaign, and Trump praising Starlink, turned bitter over ego, policy clashes, and grabs. But Musk seems to be no different from any of the other dozen of political figures that Trump uses for 3 months and then dumps like a mid-tier.
Thinking about Elon. I just wish you well.
Only difference is that Musk gets to dry his tears with billions instead of hawking vitamins on a failed podcast or selling some strange pillow. He can cry all he wants on Twitter, but the only people who care are the people who enjoy watching him cry. Now Elon demands Trump sends U.S. troops to San Francisco for the war on drugs. Elon waging a war on drugs? Trump and Elon are two black holes. Together, two egos so large that it's almost impossible to imagine what happens when they collide. It was so obvious that this would happen from the start. I feel like we all saw this coming. Donald Trump and Elon were two idiots that truly needed each other. Quick shout out and thank you to my channel member, John W. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. Outside of that, if you're interested in watching something new, click the video on screen now to watch everything wrong with Donald Trump. See you next time.